If January didn't go the way you planned, this episode's for you. Let me guess. Motivation's starting to fade, routines are slipping, and now you're starting to tell yourself, I'll restart next week. Let me tell you something, friend. February is not the time to start over. It's the time to be honest. In this episode, I'm breaking down what you should start doing if you want some real progress for the rest of this year. Let's parlay. What's going on, family? Appreciate you tuning in for another episode, and I'm excited to share what I have for you today because I feel that a lot of people may be experiencing similar things right about now at this part of January, really the tail end of January going into February. And yeah, I've had some times in the past where I've struggled with the same thing. And that's what made me come to the conclusion that it would be great to talk about this today. So I'm excited to share today's topic with you. And before we get into all of that, I always just like to check in. First and foremost, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and share this with anyone who you feel would find this of value. I'm looking to really just help as many people as I possibly can. I'm not even really like in this for money or for any sort of external benefit. This just really feeds my soul to be able to speak as freely as I possibly can about things that I feel like could help you. So if you could share this with a friend or with a family member or whomever, it would be greatly appreciated. So just wanted to put that out there. If anyone is looking for one-on-one coaching, feel free to click the link in the bio, or not in the bio, in the description. I think I said bio last episode too, but in the description so that you could apply for coaching and we can connect from there. So if you're looking to work with a faith-based coach who is well experienced and well versed in helping people lose weight, burn body fat, and put on muscle, but also looking to root that process in the Lord and honoring your temple, then this is the place to be. So the Fit and Faith program is something I'm excited to continue sharing with people and continue working with people on, just because I think it's bigger than fitness. So just wanted to put that out there. As far as how I'm doing great, y'all. I hope that everybody has been having a great start to 2026. I know that that may not be the case for everyone. I know that there's a lot of people who have probably set a lot of big goals for 2026. Probably have really put a lot of attention on having certain things this year and accomplishing certain things. And I think it's always good to do that because the new year is a milestone. You know, it's another 365 days that passed in your life, and it's an opportunity to just evaluate, assess, and try to shift things, especially after the holidays. However, I have noticed not only in my life, but in the lives of other people who have had similar approaches to New Year's, that January, especially right now, the end of January going into February, motivation starts to dip. Let's just take, for example, what most people are probably experiencing, right? You've been doing whatever you've been trying to do that's new, you know, whether it be like new routines, new habits, new fitness goals, new regimens, and you've been doing that for a certain amount of time, maybe a couple weeks by now. And things are now starting to come into your life that have made things busier than expected. You may have had family situations happen, you may have been invited to things. Usually the winter is pretty slow for most people, especially if you're in the Northeast or just anywhere where it snows and it's cold. Most people aren't getting out as much as when it's summertime. So things are pretty slow. However, that New Year feeling starts to wear off towards the end of January. And I think there's some statistic that talks about how most people go through this cycle every year. So this part of the year is where most people quietly fall off because they just don't adjust. And that's what I want to talk about today is what you should do in this moment when you feel that things aren't going the way that you expected. Instead of trying to start over and reset, which will ultimately lead you to doing the same things you tried to do in January, but doing them again even harder and with more guilt and pressure, instead of doing that, maybe it's a time to step back and be honest about your situation, right? So Right now you may be feeling that, okay, I'm becoming more inconsistent with my habits. I'm starting to judge myself. The temptation to restart and recalibrate, or the temptation to restart is growing bigger than the temptation to recalibrate and just figure out what to do next. And a lot of you are probably saying, like, I just need to try harder. I'm just not doing enough. I need to do more. I need to, like, really go extreme. And this is good feedback, right? It's good to assess where you're at and to get a good idea of what's been happening. If that's not your situation, if you haven't been able to get started at all, then the conversation is still the same. It's still an opportunity for you to assess, well, why haven't I got started? Why have I delayed what it is that I've been wanting to do and the things that I know I need to do in order to get where I want to be? There might be some of you who are just not sure what you need to do. And you're really at a point where you're like, I just need help, right? And that's where you can seek some guidance. But it's still good to assess and be aware of why things have transpired the way that they have. Okay, so this month of January is a good time to reflect. I've had some of my best reflections after the month of January. I've looked back in my notes and I've seen what I've written down about the beginning of the year, what I've written down about my goals and how I'm working towards them. And this tends to be the best time that I've had to sort of pivot, adjust, and make sure that there's things that I can actually sustain past the month of January. So February is the time to get honest, okay? And that's what I'm here to encourage you on, is how to be honest about your situation. Okay, so what actually needs to change and needs to be adjusted moving forward? First things first, if you are having trouble sticking to habits, this might be an opportunity to consolidate, okay? Just converge on the habits that are the most important to you. So if you've tried to add on journaling, reading, all these sort of positive habits, if you're like, hey, I want to get in the gym 5 days a week or whatever, if you've had all these things that you've added onto your plate that you weren't doing before the beginning of this year, it might be time to just remove some of the things that aren't as important. Now, don't get me wrong, all of those things that you've been aspiring to do as daily habits or even weekly habits, they're all good things. But a lot of the times, and just to bring it to a spiritual perspective, a lot of the times the enemy, your personal adversary, doesn't want you to do the right things. Your enemy wants you to do a lot of good things, because your enemy knows that if you do a lot of good things, it's not sustainable. But if you do a few of the right things, that's where God can come in and make sure that you're focused, you're diligent, you're disciplined on those things. Then you can start building up the confidence to add other things onto your plate, other habits onto your plate that will continue to expand on the foundation you've built with the few things. Okay, so right now might be a really good opportunity for you to just put a couple of habits to the side that are not as important. If it's reading, if it's journaling, if it's whatever, I recommend putting those things to the side. Now, what I will recommend you keep is anything that's going to ground you spiritually. So if it's prayer, if it's reading the Bible, if it's just one verse a day, I'm going to highly encourage that, because that's going to further root your identity in truth and in something bigger than yourself, AKA God, right? Jesus. Okay, so it takes the pressure off of you. The other thing I was going to mention here is that really start to think about the structure that fits your life. So a part of that consolidating of your habits is understanding what your life allows you to do. It's not comparing yourself to other people who are doing 50 different habits and staying on top of all of them. For example, I'm an online fitness coach and I have my business that I run virtually. I don't expect that someone who works a full-time job, going into the office, who has a family, married with kids, is going to be able to do the same exact things that I'm currently doing. Now, maybe they're able to fit a lot of those habits into their life, but not maybe as much time towards those things. So it's good to just reflect about what your situation is and be real and be honest about what can fit into your situation. And if it's just, again, like I said, if it's keeping certain habits, but just reducing the amount of time that you're spending on each one, that's okay, because that's what works best for you. Okay. So really just being in your own lane. And a part of being in your own lane is not striving for perfection, but striving for progress. Okay. You just want to keep your streaks going on the habits that are most important to you. Like I mentioned, your spiritual habits, I'm going to recommend those as priority number one. And then everything that can come underneath that, it's just doing what you can consistently. If you're not able to get to the gym every single day, then maybe it's just a 30-minute walk each day that you commit yourself to. And for a lot of people, that's better than what you're currently doing, especially if you live a sedentary lifestyle. So little things like that is what's going to matter to, or what's going to really impact your sustainability of these habits that you're doing. And the other part of sustainability is rest, recovery. I have personally adopted the method of taking a 24-hour Sabbath rest. Usually I do it on Sunday. It does not have to be on Sunday, but that just makes the most sense to me because I have church. Football is usually on Sunday. So it's just a good opportunity to just say, all right, I'm not doing any work. I'm not focusing on working out today. It's purely a rest day. And the reason why I mention this is because you will get burnt out if you are constantly on. God didn't design us like that. God literally had a day where he took a rest. He took a day of rest in order to make what we see today. Now, if God needs a day of rest, then we sure need a day of rest. And we're created in his image. So just embrace at least a 24-hour period of taking a break from whatever it is that you constantly have going on, whether it be work, whether it be working out, all those sort of things, just to kind of sit still for a bit. And that'll recharge you for the upcoming day and the rest of the week so that you can start to sustain your habits and make this a long-term lifestyle change. Okay, so those are a couple of things that I would recommend doing right now in order to help you really assess and move past January and some of the things that were unexpected as far as outcomes. Okay, so discipline in February, it looks different than discipline in January, and that's okay. All right, you should be adjusting as you continue to go on. So let's talk about recommitting without burning out. All right, so identify what's working, just to make this a little bit more structured and specific. Okay, so what's working, and make sure to keep those things, because if it's working, then clearly it's not something that needs to be removed. What's draining? Okay, what's making your life and making you a lot more stressed about having to do it, and what's also feeling unreasonable. And with those things, let's just either simplify them, reduce the amount of time that you're spending on them, or reduce the amount of mental energy you're putting into it, or just remove it entirely. Okay, that's completely fine. No one's gonna judge you for this. This is your life. This is your personal development. These are your goals that you want to achieve. Granted, I'm sure it impacts others. However, you're the one who's got to do it. So you should be the one who is determining what makes the most sense for you. So fully embrace that. And then the other thing, which I feel like is probably the most important, is re-anchoring why you even started doing these things in the first place. Like your resolutions and your goals that you set for 2026, revisit those. Are those goals still things that you care about? Or were they things that you cared about when you were, coming back from the holidays and you were all giddy about it? Think about what actually matters to you. The Bible talks about those without a vision will perish. So if you are not readdressing your vision for the year, if you're not revisiting that, then you're going to start to feel as if you're doing these things for no reason. So reestablish and re-anchor yourself in what your vision is for the year so that you can make sure that you're rooted in the right things when doing them. Okay? It's not just to do these habits. It's not just to say you did them. It's to achieve certain goal or to become this person or to do things that you feel more aligned with. The next thing and the last thing that may sound a little bit uncomfortable is to just commit to the next 30 days of doing these habits. So instead of making this like oh my God, I'll never be able to sustain this for the rest of my life, just commit to 30 days. Commit to 30 days. And guess what? February is a shorter month, right? So it'll actually take you into March, or you start in January and it ends right at the end of February. Regardless, just make it a 30-day commitment that you make, and find some way to track your streaks of your habits. Now, I personally use the app Habitify. They're not a sponsor of this podcast. However, feel free to add them in the comments and suggest that they do become a sponsor. I mean, that would be nice. But what I'm trying to say is I use this app to keep track of my habits, and it shows me the streaks that I've had for each one of the habits that I've done consistently. There's weekly ones, monthly habits, and daily habits. You can even assign them to remind you to do them in the afternoon, the evening, the morning. It's a really cool app. I think it's like, I don't know, like $80 for the year. So just to let you know, it does come at a cost. However, if you have some system of tracking this 30-day commitment, then you're more than likely to stay on top of it, because you're constantly reminding yourself that you are committed to this thing for 30 days. So having either a spreadsheet or an app, whatever, or maybe even an accountability partner who can, talk to you about these things and make sure you're staying on top of them, do that. Just commit for the next 30 days, okay? Because after 30 days, you're gonna start to feel like a lot of these habits are like brushing your teeth or like showering. They should be like brushing your teeth or showering. You should be doing that every day. But anyway, if you do it for 30 days, it starts to become like that, where you almost feel like a stench of not doing it if you haven't done it before the end of your day or before the end of your week. So those are the things that I would highly recommend you do now that January's coming to a close and we're going into February. Okay, so just think about February, March as like a foundation season. Okay, we're really building the foundation for what can sustain throughout the rest of the year. And consistency is always going to outlast, super intense short periods. You can do that all you want to, and you can focus on that for short bouts of time to reach shorter term goals. However, if you really want to make some sustainable change, and if you have a new year resolution, it's going to probably take you a year to get it done, right? Or at least 6 months. So why don't you commit to just being consistent and not commit to doing such crazy intense bouts of work for short periods of time? And I'll also say that quiet work, the things that you're doing in the dark, the things that you're doing when no one watches, those things compound very quickly. Like, unfortunately, our minds don't work very well when it comes to thinking about compounding effects, right? So, we think very linearly, right? And especially because of our world that we're in and our education system, we've been trained to think that, all right, if I put in X amount of work, I should get Y amount of results. And that's not how life works. That's not how much of anything works. It's almost as if this exponential curve where things are very flat, you're putting in a lot of work, and a lot of time's passing and nothing's really happening. And then all of a sudden you start to reach this curve, this bend where, oh wait, I'm starting to see a lot of results, and I'm starting to feel a lot more comfortable. And then all of a sudden you're in another stratosphere when it comes to the results you got from the work that you put in. So when you're thinking about these habits and these things that you're doing on your own time, they will compound. They are worth it. You just have to find a way to make it work for you so that it's something you can accomplish, and not compare yourself to others who are doing it in whatever way works for them. It's always great to have different examples of people who are going to inspire you. And I'm sure that there's a lot of folks online that you can watch who tell you that this is the way to do it, and this is what's going to make you go from this place to that place. That's fine. Use that as information, but still look at your situation and see, where are you at and what makes the most sense for you. This is what January to February is really all about, and that's what I want to encourage you to do. So I'll just close off by saying this. The people who win the year are the ones who stay steady. when no one's watching. So focus on being steady, focus on being consistent, and focus on just being in your own lane. Now, if you have accountability partners and they're doing different habits that you're holding them accountable to, it's all right for you to be doing different things that are slightly less, because that's your life and this is what you're trying to accomplish. So I just want to focus and emphasize that. And lastly, I just want to wrap up by saying this is normal for everyone. If you feel like you're slipping up at the end of January, most people are. So don't think that you are some sort of failure or that you're not good enough. I've gone through many periods of doing this, and it's happened mostly throughout my life up until recently when I started to learn that, oh, I need to adjust, I need to tweak, and I need to focus on my situation. So I'm telling you this because a lot of the times that voice in your head will try to make you think that you are the only one who's suffering from not meeting your expectations. It's absolutely false. Everybody falls short. And it's time to start listening to that voice in your head that is giving you grace and also thinking a lot more logically and reasonably about the situation and saying, hey, maybe I just put the wrong things on my plate. Maybe I need to focus on putting the right things on my plate. And the other thing I'm going to say is just be engaged and be intentional throughout this entire time. The engagement comes from tracking whatever you're doing. The intentionality comes from focusing on why you're doing the things that you're doing. And the combination of those two, keeping track of your progress and focusing on your why, it's going to make you a dangerous person. It's going to make you very dangerous for whoever's trying to slow you down from doing what you're supposed to be doing. Okay, so really focus on staying engaged and being intentional with everything that you have going on. And from there, those practices will allow you to accomplish whatever you want to accomplish moving forward. All right. If January didn't go as expected, I hope that this episode has been helpful for you and that you've been able to just realize that you're not the only one. I mean, for me, some things didn't go as expected for me in January, and it's time to reflect. And I've been doing that. And now I'm going to adjust some things. You ain't the only one. Okay? Your boy's in this with you. So give yourself some grace, focus on the things you can control, be intentional with focusing on your vision behind all that you're doing, and then stay engaged with your habits. Keep track of them. And if you can, find an accountability partner who can hold you accountable to the things you said you're going to do. All right? That is all I got for today. This might be a little bit of a quicker episode, but I felt like this would be very helpful for those who just need some very direct and clear advice on what to do at the end of January. And more than anything, I just hope that whatever it is that you're looking to accomplish, that you've prayed about it, that it's rooted in not self-glorification, but in glorification of your Creator, of God. And I hope that whatever it is that hasn't been going well, I hope that those things don't stop you from doing and focusing on the things that have been going well. So take a second to just reflect, evaluate these things. And other than that, y'all, I really just hope that the rest of this year is way better than you even expected, especially if January didn't go the way that you wanted it to. If you're starting off with a little bit of a slump, we're only up from here. Okay? Take care, y'all. Subscribe to the episode if you haven't already, and we will catch you next week. Take care. Peace. I said take care already. Like the Drake album. Anyway, all right, we're out of here. Bye.